Measuring learner engagement in education is almost like understanding how well a student learns. An engaged student intakes content easier, understands it better, and retains it longer. So, how do you know if a learner is engaged? Teachers who know their students can tell in a vague sense how a lesson went over. But with distance education, institutions might rely exclusively on student feedback or academic performance. In other words, they don't really have a very good idea at all of when a learner is engaged or when they're not engaged. But what if there was another way? Hi, my name is Henry Kronk. I'm the editor at eLearningInside, and this week on EdTechnically, we're asking, what if you could measure learner engagement with AI and a webcam? With the advent of small, cheap, high-resolution cameras, along with adaptive algorithms, technologists from many fields dream of a way to track user interest. The use of such technology could revolutionize the way people learn. Educators could use this technology to personalize learning even further. They could identify specifically when a user loses interest in a module, know when they're too tired to work, identify patterns in their learning behavior, and understand when a disruptive life event is preventing them from progressing through class. Schools are already using AI-equipped camera arrays for a number of purposes. Many in the US are using these setups to enhance school security. In China and elsewhere, numerous schools are also using AI and cameras to track student behavior. A French business school is using AI to determine whether learners are paying attention. Other efforts include tracking what students write, tracking attendance, and even assessing the likelihood of sickness. But all of these initiatives share one thing in common. They track something that is easy to identify. Learner engagement, however, is a different beast. Imagine a personalized learning curriculum that could track down to the paragraph when and where a learner lost interest. It could completely change the way subjects are taught, how educational content is created, and ultimately, how effectively learners learn. While many believe this outcome is inevitable, we have yet to arrive there as a society. And before we get to issues like privacy, we need to figure out how to do it in the first place. I'm really sorry if I don't say these names correctly, but researchers Mohammed, Soleymani, and Marcello Mortillaro from the University of Geneva sought to tackle this issue in a recent study. And when they began their work, they weren't incredibly optimistic because the meager body of existing research on the subject hadn't provided many positive results. Now, as I said easier, there are a bunch of AI camera systems that already track human behavior. And they can do that partially because humans tend to reflect basic emotions like happiness and sadness with more or less universal expressions. But when it comes to learner engagement or interest, it's way more difficult to nail down. A few early studies conclude simply that one cannot measure learner engagement with facial expression. Others report accuracies of determination well below 50%. In other words, a system was accurate in identifying learner engagement less than half of the time. Still others have had much better success. One breakthrough came with a 2017 study in which Mortillaro also participated, which found that tracking the dynamic, moving motions of the face, compared to static images, increased accuracy from 29% to 68%. That's not bad. It's still not great. In an effort to determine learner engagement, Soleymani and Mortillaro used 3 different methods. First, they mapped the face into nearly 50 different points and tracked their motion in relation to each other. Second, they looked at eye gaze duration and bodily posture. Third, they also measured galvanic skin response, also known as GSR, or the electric activity at the level of the skin. This method is used in everything from polygraphs to athletic fitness testing and involves attaching electrodes to numerous points on the body. The researchers showed over 50 participants dozens of images and GIFs. Is it GIFs? Is it GIFs? I don't know. Let's leave that for next time. Participants were asked to rate each image and video on a scale from 1 to 7 based on their interest. Soleymani and Mortillaro then used a random forest regressor to process the data, comparing their visual findings with the participants' reported interest. On a basic level, researchers found that they could indeed correlate learner engagement with a set of behaviors. Interested participants tended to smile, move their head closer to the screen, and among many other combinations, saccade their eyes. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly, but pretty much saccading means move your eyes rapidly between 2 points for a longer than normal duration. Some motions also indicated disinterest. As the authors write, quote, all participants leaned toward the screen when a new image appeared, which indicated attention toward a novel stimulus, but only when the stimulus was interesting, they maintained the posture and remain engaged. When the stimulus was not interesting, they would go back to the resting position, distancing themselves from the screen, end quote. Also of note, quote, micro videos elicited more consistent behavioral patterns across participants, as is observable in the participant-independent results. We believe that the still images could not elicit emotions and reactions as strong as those elicited by moving pictures, and therefore we suggest using videos in future work, end quote. Measuring interest and engagement via a learner's face, therefore, may not be as far away as some think. Still, the authors conclude with a warning, quote, obviously, using behavioral signals such as facial expression to detect situational interest requires capturing facial images, and we should be aware that users might find that intrusive for at least two reasons. First, users might not want to share information that would make them identifiable with a system. Second, one might not necessarily want to share his or her inner state, such as interest, in a given content. Deploying such systems should only be done with the full informed consent of its users, and the users should have full control over how and where the data can be used. Such systems should be designed not to transfer or store identifiable information, in this case facial images. One existing solution is to execute facial tracking on users' device and only transfer or store the analysis outcome. Soleymani and Mortillaro, if you develop technology that can be brought to market, good luck with these last 2 points. Anyways, to answer the question, what if you could measure learner engagement with AI and a webcam? The answer is it would be crazy. It would completely change the way that we educate people. It would allow for so many opportunities in education, and it would raise so many red flags regarding privacy and data security. People are trying to make it happen, but the good news is we still have some time to figure things out. We're still some ways away from a product that could be brought to market, or so it seems at least. As a PS, this represents the work of academia. There is some indication, however, that proprietary software in the private sector is further ahead. China Global Television Network, a government-operated media outlet, reported last summer on the Chinese tutoring company VipKid. I've heard some people pronounce this VIPKid, but I'm pretty sure it's VipKid. VipKid is huge. It employs tens of thousands of tutors and teaches millions of learners. Last summer, they secured a funding round worth $500 million in US dollars and partnered with Microsoft to advance the use of AI in education. Those are two different things. CGTN, the China Global Television Network, got in touch with, I'm sorry if I mispronounced this name, Zhang Yanjing, who is the VP of Technology for VipKid. And Yanjing said, quote, interactivity and involvement are crucial in online education. We developed a complicated algorithm to analyze students' eyes and how they move. And we train the model through deep learning. Each student has different ways to express feelings, so the feedback could be very different, end quote. Now, this is a translation into English, but it does appear that VipKid has similar efforts underway. It might be that way, or it might be that they're simply tracking when students are paying attention and when they're not paying attention, which is a related issue, but not quite the same. This has been EdTechnically. My name is Henry Kronk, and I work as the editor of eLearningInside. If you like this podcast, please rate and review. If you want to hear more, please subscribe. Also, keep in mind that this show is available as a video on our YouTube channel and also as a podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and other places where you get your podcasts. The basic content for this video first appeared as an article on eLearningInside, and if you want to learn more about online courses, technology in the classroom, and EdTech in general, be sure to check out our site. It's updated daily. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please send an email to henry@elearninginside.com, or you can follow us on Twitter @eLearningInside. Thanks for listening.